Fox Sports Shows and Touchdown Alabama Magazine present The Way It Is with your host, Stephen M. Smith, with Matt Zaleski, your number one source for Alabama football news. The best. The best in the business, giving you stats, inside info, player interviews, and much more. This is The Way It Is.
That's right, folks. You are tuned in to The Way It Is. We are live and on the air. Matt Zaleski here, Fox Sports Shows Radio. And as always, coming to us from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Stephen M. Smith. Stephen, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Matt. Happy to see you back on the show or hear you back on the show. And the voice is starting to come back a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little raspy still, that's for sure. But we're going to make it through, you know. So I'm glad to be here, glad to be with you. And we got a absolutely loaded show today, kind of doubling up on Auburn. Going to talk a little more Auburn football today with Mark Murphy. And also, Stephen, going to dive in a little bit to Jalen Hurts. Is he overrated as a passer? Are people sleeping a little bit on Jalen Hurts? Going to talk about some of that today.
Talking about some of that, and also we get into the Associated Press. They released with the Associated Press, the publication released its All-America team on today, and Minka Fitzpatrick, the only first-team selection coming from the University of Alabama, but J.K. Scott, Calvin Ridley, and Jonah Williams all made the second team. Did the AP get that right? Matt Zaleski and I will touch on that also.
No doubt about it. Got a lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions on the AP preseason All-American poll there. Also today, we continue our schedule breakdowns. We have went through 9 of the SEC teams. We're making our way up to the power side of the West. We'll look at Arkansas today, Texas A&M tomorrow, LSU Thursday, and we will look at Auburn on Friday. And then when we start our final week before the season gets underway, or the real kickoff, not the few games we have this week, we will take a look at Alabama. And I want to go ahead and announce today Matt Moscona from After Further Review, big-time radio host down in Baton Rouge, is going to join us live on Thursday. Matt's, you've seen him on the Paul Feinbaum Show and other shows. Matt considered one of the top 30 regional sports hosts in the country, Stephen, and Matt does a great job. He'll join us on Thursday. You know, I'm excited to talk LSU football.
That's going to be a knockout show. But, ladies and gentlemen, as always, for our listeners, tune in, call in. Let your voice be heard today, 256-764-1340. Once again, if you are fiery about a topic, if you have a strong opinion on something, do not be afraid to pick up that phone and call 256-764-1340 or text with that number also.
Absolutely. Call or text, whatever's more convenient for you, whatever you're comfortable with. We'll be glad to respond to you via the phone call or the text message. You can also tweet in the show if you'd like to. I know I'm very active on Twitter. I know Stephen is. Our show page is active. And you can tweet me directly at Matt's On Live. That's MATTSONLIVE. That's at Matt's On Live. You can also tweet the show page, The Way It Is, 97.9 FM. Tweet either one of those. And Stephen will monitor the show page. I'm monitoring my page, and we will read those tweets out live on the air. So tons of ways to link up and let your voice be heard on our show. And then also, folks, I want to let you know that you can listen from a variety of ways, too. You could go to the Fox Sports Shoals website, foxsportsshoals.com, completely revamped website, and click the Listen Live link at the top of the page. Just scroll the website for fun if you'd like to do that, too. And then you can download our app by searching WSBM in your app store. You'll download the Fox Sports Shoals app, which is available for iPhones and most Android devices. If you can't get it on your Android, or you have an outlier phone like me, a Windows phone or a BlackBerry or some other operating system, all of those do take the TuneIn Radio app. It's a free app. And then once again, search WSBM there. It'll bring up Fox Sports 1340. If you download the app, the regular app on the iPhone or an Android just in your store, it's going to bring up 97.9 Fox Sports Shoals. If you download the app on TuneIn Radio, it'll bring up Fox Sports 1340. But let me assure you, we have two dials. We have an AM dial 1340 and an FM dial 97.9. Both of them, there's the same great content, So if you can't get it on the regular app, get it on the TuneIn Radio app. But, Stephen, there are many ways to listen to this show, to be connected to this show. So if you like what we're doing, your friends like what we're doing, you want your friends to know what we're doing, family, you name it, tell them to look us up on the app or online, and they can definitely tune in from 2 to 4 each and every weekday.
And not just us, even though the two of us are awesome. We are two glamorous people, but not just us. A great lineup that features Dan Patrick, Clay Travis, Colin Cowherd. So dynamite radio personalities. If you get that app, listen live and tune into what everybody on this program has to say or give an opinion on.
And don't forget to go to tdalabamamag.com. That's tdalabamamag.com. And get yourself a subscription. Football season getting underway, a little bit this weekend, but really next weekend, and go get you a great subscription. Steven, I want to ask you, buddy, when is the first – I know their content's up every day on the web. When is the first magazine going to hit the newsstands?
It's going to hit the newsstands. I believe it's going to be between next week, possibly that first week of September. It's going to be tight, but in between next week and the first week of September, that issue will hit the stands. It's right now fresh from the printer. We got our final proof on that, so it's fresh from the printer, but I believe it's between next week and that first week of September. I will get more clarification on that upon the end of this show, but it's coming quickly.
Absolutely. So lock up, link up, connect, you name it, be a part of it, and a lot of great things happening there. But, Stephen, let's dive in. Jalen Hurts, is he overrated as a passer? You've made, and I'm going to ask you about something you were telling me or in a message off the air. You said that some, radio hosts are even pushing for Tua Tagovailoa to potentially start over Jalen Hurts. I've got to tell you, Stephen, I have not heard that from anybody. I've heard people rave about Tua's ability. I've heard people rave about Tua's talent. I've heard people rave about what he can do in the future with the program. But I have not heard anybody say that he should start over Jalen Hurts. I've got to ask you, who has said that? Because it makes me wonder why they're saying it.
I mean, there's been quite a few of them. I know I had a friend of mine, because I was actually outside cutting some grass on yesterday outside my apartment, getting some lawn work done, and I came in, and I looked at my phone, and a friend of mine who was listening to, I believe it was the game on Tide 102.9, and, Ron Fowler was on, Jalen Hurts about, can he be accurate? Can he really pass the football? Can he really do, these types of things? And I remember going back to when Ron Fowler had, Trent Dilfer on his show, one of the guys that's behind, or the main guy behind the Elite 11 quarterback competition, and he came up and he talked about how gifted Tua was and comparing Tua to the likes of Aaron Rodgers, which me personally, I wouldn't do that, but comparing Tua to the likes of Aaron Rodgers. And I get the fact that people love new faces. People love newness. People love when somebody new comes on campus, they immediately want to hype them up, get them accolades, get them appraisal. But at the same time, the most we have seen on Tua is high school footage. The difference between high school and college ball is a very big difference, is a very big jump. And we don't know the mental makeup of Tua Tagovailoa just yet. We would like to know, we would like to assume, but we really just don't know. When he gets hit by that defensive end coming at 4.3 speed, how will he respond? When he gets hit by that outside linebacker coming at 4.4 speed, how will he respond? When he throws his first interception, or when something does not go his way, we will not know. We don't know how he'll respond. He will get some playing time this year. That will judge and be a gauge as to see how will he respond. But we've had a full year to absorb Jalen when he's been great, Jalen when he has struggled, and at the same time, even when he has made a bad play, he has bounced back with brilliance, making positive play after positive play after positive play. So despite the understanding of the newness and wanting to embrace the newness and wanting to be excited about the new faces that come in, Jalen Hurts, we've had a full servant size to see what he's about, and he's even all the more confident of wanting to prove himself more so in the upcoming season.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Steven. I think when you look at Tua and the fact that he stayed committed to Alabama when he could have chose any school in the country to play for, he knew he was coming to Alabama where a true freshman quarterback just won Conference Player of the Year, yet he still maintained that commitment and did not flip to a school that probably would have gave him a great opportunity to start immediately. Mentally, that told me a lot about this kid already. No, I haven't seen him in live game action. He did play incredibly well in the A-Day game. But a lot of guys in his situation would say, well, that's obviously probably going to be Jalen's job for the next 2 years, maybe 3, depending if he decides to opt early for the draft. Why would I go there if I can go to a number of other high-profile schools and have an opportunity to start immediately? So the fact that he stayed committed to Alabama tells me that mentally he's a very confident kid.
He's a confident kid, but then here's this once again, when it comes to a game situation.
Well, I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying if we're talking about, mental fortitude.
I get what you're saying.
Okay, I'm mental fortitude, but I don't know. I don't know who's been out there. I mean, everybody I listen to says Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. I haven't heard hardly anybody come out and say Tua should be starting. I haven't heard that. Maybe one fan, but everybody I listen to, and I don't sit there and listen to sports radio all day, but I listen to some. I watch a lot of video clips at night, and it seems the consensus out there think Jalen's the guy and should be the guy.
For most, it is, but there's still some out there that love to play up. Okay, this guy right here, this 5-star kid in Tua, is the way purer passer. They look at what happened the last 3 games of the season for Alabama against Florida, against Washington, and against Clemson in the national championship game. And I get it. I understand it. The passing wasn't as crisp as Alabama would have liked it to be, as the coaching staff would have liked it to be, and even for Jalen. But at the end of the day, when you needed a score, yes, 7 3-and-outs. You don't want to have it. You don't want to put up with it. It's terrible. But at the end of the day, when you needed that ball being put into the end zone, the ball was put into the end zone virtue of Jalen Hurts' legs. I mean, there have been a lot of quarterbacks in years past, and the reason why they've had success at Alabama, when you look at John Parker Wilson, when you look at A.J. McCarron, Greg McElroy, even Jacob Coker, the reason being they've all had healthy running backs. John Parker Wilson had a healthy Glenn Coffey. Greg McElroy, a healthy Mark Ingram, a healthy Trent Richardson. A.J. McCarron, Trent Richardson, T.J. Yeldon, Eddie Lacy. Jacob Coker, a 6'3", 250-pound Derrick Henry. The majority of the time this past season, despite the fact that Damian Harris is good, Bo Scarborough is electric, Josh Jacobs proved a lot this past season, there were games that one of those 3 guys, or a good mixture of those 3 guys, did not play. And for the most part, Jalen Hurts' best option when it came to running the football was his own legs in moments where Damian Harris didn't play, in moments where Josh Jacobs didn't play, in moments where Bo struggled early on. And then at the end, the very end, when you didn't want him to get hurt, gets hurt, breaks his leg. And despite all of that, you still see Jalen keep a firm mindset, keep a firm composure, and go out there and lead a team to a national championship game.
Well, I think that Jalen does have to get better. I mean, at the end of the day, if they didn't have 7 3-and-outs, the defense isn't exhausted, and they probably win the game. You do look at some of those games at the end, and let me be clear, because one thing I've learned on this show is that I make one statement that's oftentimes taken out of context. I believe, and I want to be clear when I say this, there's no doubt in my mind Jalen Hurts should be the starter to start the season. So let me say that to start with. I know there's a lot of Jalen fans that listen. But when you look at the way last season ended, and you look at really the final 4 games of the year they played against Auburn, now Jalen did complete a lot of passes against Auburn, very high completion percentage, 75%. 27 of 36, 286, but he did throw 2 picks, 2 touchdowns. Florida, 11 of 20 for 138, 1 touchdown, no picks. Washington, 7 of 14, 57 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. And Clemson, 13 of 31 for 1 touchdown and no picks. So the completion percentage 55%, 50%, 41.9% the last 3 games. The Auburn game, he completed well, but he threw the ball to Auburn early in the game, but the defense was so dominant it just didn't matter. That game was only like 13-9 at halftime, and Alabama had outgained them like 265-20 or something. I mean, they could have been up by 30 points. They were up by 4, and those 2 interceptions played a role. So the way he finished last season, there is reason to have some doubt. There's good reason to have it. He did. Now, Florida had a pretty good defense. Now, they scored a lot on Florida. Alabama's defense scored a lot on Florida's offense. There was more pick sixes in that game I've ever seen in my life. But he didn't. I mean, Florida had a good defense. Washington had a good defense. And Clemson had a good defense. No doubt about that. But I don't think you can argue that those last 3 games he did not play well. He had a moment or two where he played well, but he did not play well really in all 3 of those games. And Bama's defense was dominant in the Florida game, very dominant in the Washington game, and dominant for a half in the Clemson game. And then they wore out. The 3 and outs were too much, in my opinion, to overcome. So while I do believe Jalen Hurts should be the starter, I think his upside's high. I certainly take into account that he was only a true freshman last year, and I thought his composure was incredible. There is reason to look and say he has to prove he can be better than what we saw to end last year.
And you have to let him prove it, though. That's the key point. Will the fan base or some of the fan base allow him to prove that? I even look at today's parents in today's world. If you're a parent in today's world, if one of your children breaks something or does something they're not supposed to do, you just don't automatically grab the belt and go disciplining. Now, some do, but you give that child a chance to tell why they did what they did. If you agree with the reason and you can make a rational statement from the reason, then there may be another form of punishment being used. If you don't agree with the reason, if you think the reason is far-fetched, then we may see some chastisement. But at the end of the day, you do give your son or daughter an opportunity to state why they did what they did. In this sense right here, Jalen Hurts was at the Manning Passing Academy. Jalen Hurts has come out and has stated that he wants to get better. He wants to improve. He is making those strides. Allow him to be able to prove himself, to give him that chance to go out there and see and watch. Okay, he says he's going to be a better passer. Let's watch. Let's see. Instead of continuing to play up, well, let's see what Tua can do. Let's see what Tua can do. Let's see what Tagovailoa is made out of. The kid's going to be a special talent. I'm not downplaying Tua, but what I am saying, if Jalen's coming from his own mouth saying, I will improve, let's give him a shot to see how will he improve.
I think for me, Stephen, the thing is that I just feel like that's a very small rumble. I mean, I keep a pretty strong pulse on the SEC sports world, and I'm maybe you're hearing things I'm not hearing. I almost feel like this conversation, you're almost defending Jalen in a sense that there's a strong percentage of people out there chanting for Tua. I'm just saying I'm not hearing it. I'm not disagreeing with your reasons why Jalen should play, because I think he should play. I agree with you. I just don't think that there's that many. There's probably some. I just don't think there's that many people really banging the drum for Tua Tagovailoa to start over Jalen Hurts. I'm just not seeing it. We do have a few texts come in. One person says, I've heard that Tua has struggled in camp. Is that true? Stephen, I'll give you that, but give me just a second. Another text says, I've heard numerous people say this was a real quarterback battle. A few weeks ago, it was talked about quite a bit. It seems to have died down. Well, once again, for me, I just haven't heard that. And I every night of my life, I keep up. I read things. I watch video clips. I keep a pretty tight eye. Now, I'm not in Tuscaloosa, but I just don't hear. I hear a lot of people saying this Tua kid could be special, but I'm not hearing a lot of people say this Tua kid should start over Jalen Hurts. Right now, we'll go to the phone lines and take a call. You're on The Way It Is. Who are we talking with?
Hey, man, it's JJ.
Hey, what's happening, JJ?
Hey, man, sounds like you're playing Hurts today, brother.
Yeah, a little bit of I got a real sore throat, but we're fighting through it, man. Got some meds and we're ready to go.
All right,
what's
man.
going on, JJ?
Hey, what's going on, Steven? Hey,
doing
listen,
good.
Hey, man. Hey, listen, Hurts is a starter. There's no doubt about that. But, until he gets out there and shows improvement this season, there's always going to be those critics about him because, like you said, the way those last few games ended, And the last visual we have of him really is those performances in those games. And until he gets out there and shows it, there's going to be, some people that are just going to they're not going to believe it till they see it. Now, do I think he's improved? Yeah, I think he's improved. And the reason why I think he's improved, Nick Saban said he's improved. If Nick Saban says he's gotten better at throwing the football, that's good enough for me. And Matt's right. The guy's got to get better. There's no question. Is he a great athlete? Yes, he is. But he has got to get better in the passing game. And if Saban says he has, then I have to believe that he has. Now, does he have to be Peyton Manning? No, he don't. He doesn't have to be a prolific passer. He's got to be good enough. I mean, there was a time when Tim Tebow was raked over the coals a bunch of times because, people criticized his throwing motion, his mechanics, and everything when he was at Florida. But he got better. He become an effective passer, and he became more of a well-rounded quarterback. And I think that's what you'll see out of Hurts. And he's going to get a shot to prove it. And, hey, like I said, if the head coach says you got better, he's gotten better.
Well, JJ, as always, buddy, we appreciate the call, man. Thanks for listening in, buddy.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye. All right, Stephen, I want to give it to you here. I took that call, but the first text said, I've heard that Tua has struggled in camp. Is that true? You tell me. Once again, I haven't heard that, but you're down there in Tuscaloosa. Has Tua struggled in camp, Stephen?
In the first scrimmage, it was reported in the first scrimmage that he had a couple of interceptions thrown. I know in the second scrimmage, did make a lot of improvement, did progress well. When you look at Tua, at times to me, when he rolls out and throws the football, he has a strong arm. At times, a little bit too confident in his arm, but you see the arm strength, you see the ability, you see the potential. You definitely see the potential. In the first scrimmage, had a couple of picks, two of them by linebacker Rashaan Evans, Terrell Lewis, had a pick off him as well. So the first scrimmage was a bit of a test one for him, but the second one, Tua made some explosive plays according to Saban and really progressed in that second exhibition despite the rain and a 22-minute lightning delay.
Let's go to the phone lines again. You're live on The Way It Is.
Hey, this is Bo from Birmingham.
Hey, Bama Bo.
How we doing, girl?
Hey, I really enjoy this show, by the way. I really do. So glad to have something to listen to. Hey, I just wanted to chime in on this Jalen. I've always been a Jalen fan. But I think that one thing that wasn't mentioned a while ago, I feel like you got to put some of this on Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin sort of checked out by about midseason last year. I kind of feel a little bit like, I just wanted to throw that out there and let y'all talk about it. I feel like a little bit of this has got to be on him. I think this kid's got tremendous upside. But that's just my take, guys, and I'll hang up and let y'all respond to that. So y'all have a great day. Bama
Bo, thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you.
All right. I'll start there, Stephen. I don't think Lane checked out probably until the postseason, until he got the Florida Atlantic job. So I think maybe the Washington game a little bit. But here's the thing: when I picked LSU to beat Alabama, and I was wrong, but the reason I did is I said I don't think Jalen throws the ball downfield well enough to beat LSU, and he didn't. LSU just could not get 1 point, and I realized I saw some things that he was doing that were making mistakes. And I'm going to go into another text we have because it's going to go to my point here. And that text says, if we won the championship, do you think people would be as critical of Jalen? He was one of the most dynamic players last year. Well, I think you can be critical of somebody and still recognize their greatness. I don't like to play games of extreme. You're either really good or you really suck. I don't do that. I think Jalen's upside's incredible. I think Jalen's a really good player. But one thing I said last year was, and by the way, I missed a couple. I picked Tennessee to beat Bama. I was wrong. I picked LSU. I was wrong. And I picked Clemson, and I was right, and probably should have been wrong on that one. But one thing I said Jalen Hurts, and I noticed the latter half of the year, and we mentioned some of those games. I said, when you beat Florida 65-24, nobody's going to realize Jalen Hurts didn't play well because you just won the damn game 65-24. So that's what you're going to remember. They just beat another team by 40-some points in the SEC championship game. Washington did not have the horses to block Alabama. Physically, they were outmatched, and they eventually just, pounded them to the ground and won 24-7. But Jalen didn't play well, 13-31. And so for me, Stephen, I saw some weaknesses in a young true freshman. He's a young true freshman. His upside's incredible. There's no doubt he is the starter this year. I'll take Jalen Hurts on my team any day of the week. I'm a huge fan of Jalen Hurts. But I still noticed some struggles in his game. He was not accurate with the ball down the field a lot last season. And when you're winning games by 30 and 40 points, it's hard to find a problem. When you're dominating games, people don't find the problem because you're winning and you're winning easily. So you remember the good things. Well, Bama didn't have a very good defense, which they did, but if they didn't, and Jalen made great plays but yet made these same mistakes and they lost games, you would have criticized that. So I think the way oftentimes media scrutiny works, if you win, you get to cover up your mistakes more. If you lose, you expose every mistake and forget that some people did good things. So for me, when I look at Jalen Hurts, I saw a very good player. I saw a guy that can become a great player. I still saw a young kid that has to improve. And I noticed things, and you guys may not have been listening to me in the early mornings at that time, but I said it then. I could probably go find it if I dug deep enough in the archives when I said I'm seeing mistakes. And I was saying it before they lost to Clemson. But when you're winning that easily, then those mistakes do not get exploited. When you lose, they do get exploited. But at the end of the day, I still think that more people, I listen to a lot, are higher on Jalen Hurts than they are lower on Jalen Hurts. I think more people see the ceiling of Jalen Hurts than they do the floor of Jalen Hurts. And I'm one of them. I think the kid's going to be an incredible player, possibly a Heisman Trophy winner. I don't know if he'll be able to throw it as much in Alabama's new system, but this guy is something special. But just because you're special doesn't mean that somebody can't find where you're not doing things wrong, because if you just think you're great at everything, there's no room for improvement. Jalen is a great player, but there's obvious room for improvement, and those last three games showed it.
I love how you and I, Matt, can have these debates and still remain cordial with each other. Now, I'm going to ask you this right here. I know Bama Bo brought up a great topic about Lane Kiffin. Prior to Jalen Hurts, when he had Blake Sims and Jacob Coker, these two guys were seniors, you could possibly get away with having that one read top of an offense and just go with one read. If the one read's not there, then do what you want to with the football. But do you feel like Kiffin should have at least been more so hands-on with Jalen, seeing how he's a freshman and you got to develop? You can't just rely on that run read, because when you're coming out of high school, if read number one is not there, you're immediately pulling down the ball and going with it. Should he have been more hands-on with Jalen and letting him know, okay, if read one's not there, take your eyes, move here, 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 because he didn't do that a lot at all with Coker or Sims.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I just don't have an answer to that. I saw problems in both Coker and Sims. I thought Sims didn't make good progressions, and he paid for it in the Auburn game, but they just kept scoring on Auburn, and he bounced back in that game, but he didn't play well. He played well in the second half, but he threw 3 picks, and then Ohio State game he threw a handful of picks, and Coker, he had games I thought were rough too. Obviously, some of them were early. So I don't know. I don't know. I think as a true freshman, what Jalen did, there's more positives than negatives. You can always go back and say, maybe I could have done this. But, I think Lane's a good coach, and I agree with Bama Bo that he checked out. I just think that Bama Bo thinks he checked out earlier than I did. I thought once he took the Florida Atlantic job, he was probably halfway to Boca Raton, but, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think as a whole, if you look at what Jalen Hurts did last year, Stephen, I still think there's more positive than – a lot more positive than negative. And for me, I can't criticize a whole lot. I'm just saying I think he's got to find ways to get better. Let's go to the phone lines. You're live on The Way It Is. Good afternoon.